Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to this Proxmox series. This is episode 2 of this series. If you haven't seen episode 1, go back and take a look. That is where we go and we build our Proxmox cluster. We build the 2 Zimmer boards and we also build the Raspberry Pi. Today we're going to follow on from that. We are going to get some of the things done in the cluster. The things that I do after I've normally built a Proxmox node, like getting some of the error messages fixed, running the updates. Then I want to go and start looking at storage. Where do I want to store my VMs, my containers? Basically just to get the storage configured so it'll easily allows me to replicate things from node to node. And finally we are going to get our network sorted, so I want to apply different VLANs to different containers and VMs within my Proxmox cluster, so I need to get that bit set up. And then the last thing I want to do is I want to build a private switch just in case I ever want to apply or create isolated workloads. By the way, if you haven't seen the first episode, I thought I'd just show you the cluster again. As you can see, it fits over here on my shelf perfectly, and it is so quiet. So on each of the Zimmer boards, as you can see, this is the Zimmer board 2, this is the 16 gig of RAM model. I have got this 1TB NVMe drive. This is where I'm going to host all of my containers and VMs. Over here is another hard disk here. This is going to be used for local storage, for ISOs and stuff like that. Both nodes are identical. I'm connecting everything into this Ubiquiti 2.5 gigabit switch. In the back here we have this Raspberry Pi, so this is the Q device. Just in case you missed the first video and you want to know exactly where we are actually building this. So usually after I do a Proxmox install, I go through and I get rid of some of those error messages, and I also do all of the updates. In a previous YouTube video that I made, I demoed how you can do all of this manually. As you can see, this is where I have removed the Proxmox no valid subscription error message and also configured all of the updates across the nodes. Now there is an easier way that you can actually do that, and that's the way I'm going to do it today because I have 2 nodes to do. On the Proxmox community scripts website, again I'll link all this stuff down below so you have it. There is this PVE post install script. As you can see, it does disable the enterprise repo. It does add the correct community repo that we need for applying updates. It also gets rid of that no subscription error message. Then it goes and actually does the update on the node, and then it reboots the node. So this script will just do everything that I need to do in one. So we're going to run this twice. We'll run this on each of the nodes, and that should bring it up to the latest versions that are available for Proxmox, and just saves us a whole bunch of time. So let's do that. So I'm going to come over here, I'm going to copy that, I'm going to go back to PVE1, I'm going to click on PVE1 again here, we're going to go up into shell, I'm going to paste that in and hit enter, and it's going to ask me, do you want to install? Yes. So first screen we're going to hit OK, then we're going to hit disable, and then we're also going to disable this one. These are the enterprise repositories. On this next screen you might see enable and disable options here. I've already temporarily enabled this as a test, so all I have to do is hit on keep. For the next screen, this is the subscription error message you get when you log in, so you want to disable that. You're going to hit OK here. Then on this one, the high availability, do we want to disable that? We do not. So move down, hit no, then update Proxmox, yes. So the last message is here is just reminding you to update all of the nodes. We're going to do that now. So hit OK and hit reboot. That is going to reboot that node after the updates. So let's quickly go over to PVE2. I'm going to go into shell. I'm going to paste that command in, and I'm going to go through the exact same process. Disable, you want to keep. Disable the subscription message, yes, okay. High availability, you want to keep that, so we will hit no there. Update Proxmox now. Hit okay, and yes, that seriously saves us so much time from doing all of those things manually. So PVE1 has already rebooted, so I am just going to log out. And I want to see, whenever I log back in again, does it give me that error message? And it hasn't, which is brilliant. So that means that has actually worked. So now we have done the updates on each of the nodes. We have also configured the error messages. We have enabled the community repos for updates. The next thing I want to do is to get the storage configured across both nodes. So whenever we built the 2 Proxmox nodes, we've like storage is replicated across the both nodes. So In PVE1, I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to click on disks. As you can see, I have got this NVMe 1TB drive, and then this other drive here. So my plan is to use the 1TB NVMe. That's going to run containers and VMs. That's where my workloads are going to be stored on. And then the other one, that's just going to be a local disk on each node that's going to store stuff like backups maybe. It's also going to store stuff like ISOs and things like that. So for the storage for workloads, I am going to use ZFS. It is perfect for home labs and home clusters like this. It allows me to easily replicate things from each node to node. The technical explanation on ZFS is ZFS gives you built-in data integrity checking, instant snapshots, and native replication between nodes, making it the perfect foundation for home lab HI clusters, which is exactly what I want. So let's get started with configuring ZFS. All we have to do is go into ZFS at the bottom. We're going to click on create ZFS. In here, I'm going to give this a name, NVMe ZFS. Now this is a cluster, and in order for this to work, we do need to keep the names the same on each node. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to select the NVMe disk that we need. Click on create. That is done. So let's go over to PVE2. We're going to do the exact same thing there. So down to ZFS, we're going to click on create. I'm going to paste in the name. We're going to select the NVMe drive that we have. Click on create. Done. Now, because we are on a cluster, if I go up here to data center, it should technically see that I have done this. It has. So you can see here under storage, you have this NVMe ZFS, which is really good. If I click on edit, you can see the types of things that it is going to store on that storage. So you can see it's disk, image, and container, which is exactly what I want, which is perfect. Okay, so let's go and create the second storage. So that is the local data drive that's going to live on each of the nodes. So go back down to PVE1. I'm going to go down here, click on directory. So click on create directory. And in this screen, you have a few options. So you need to choose the disk. I only have one disk in here, which kind of makes my choice very easy. Under file system, you have two choices, ext4 or XFS. Now there is a lot of debate on which one you should actually use. Everything that I've seen online always tells me to use XFS for this because it does handle larger files much better. I did put this into Claude and asked the question, and it did say, oh, you should definitely use ext4 because it is the best one. And then when I pushed back and said, are you sure? It said, oh no, actually XFS is the better one that you should use because it handles better replication and large files and things like that. So I'm generally just going to choose XFS. It's what I've always used and it's always been perfect. So for the name, I'm just going to call it data. Then I'm going to click on create. Okay, that is done. And let's go to PVE2. So we're going to do the exact same thing here. So click on create. We are going to choose XFS. I'm going to give it a data name, hit create, and that should be that done. Let me know in the comments what you think about the storage and the options and choices, whether you use ext4 or XFS. I'd be keen to know what most people are actually using. Okay, cool. So that is the storage done. So we have ZFS, which is going to be used to store our container and VM disks. And then we have the local data storage, which is going to be used for ISOs and templates and maybe backups and stuff like that as well. So now that we have the storage configured, let's move on and get the network stuff sorted. So one other thing that I want to do with this cluster is to be able to build multiple different workloads on different networks. I use a lot of different VLANs on my network. All my traffic is completely segmented out into different networks for different things. So that's what I want to do in Proxmox. So before I can actually show you the configuration in Proxmox, it just makes sense to show you how my sort of network is actually configured. I use a Ubiquiti Dream Machine Manager Pro on my network for pretty much managing everything. It is an unbelievable tool. I'm a big Ubiquiti fan. So if you look here, as you can see, I have got a number of different VLANs created. You can see VLAN 10, 11, 12, and 13. They're all for different things. And this is where the network configuration is actually configured. Now what I need to do is I need to be able to apply those VLANs to that other switch, the 2.5 gigabit switch that I showed you earlier. So over on that actual switch configuration, as you can see, this is the 5 ports that are on that box. Number 2 is one of the cables that's connected into the PVE nodes. So looking at this configuration, you can see here the native VLAN network, and that's currently set to the management VLAN 10. So that basically means that the default IP address range that you're going to get, so if I plug something into that, I'm going to get an IP address on that 10 range. That is how the Proxmox node received an IP address on that 10 network. Now, if I build a VM or a container on Proxmox and I just select the same switch, it's going to get an IP address from this 10 network. But as you can see here, I have got other VLANs. I have 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then the option below where it says tagged VLAN management, I've basically set this to allow all. That means that if I create more VLANs on this Ubiquiti device down the line, they're automatically going to be in this list. But from the Proxmox side, if I build a new container and I basically want it to be on VLAN 11, I just have to tag that in the VLAN setup, and that's going to obtain an IP address from that VLAN 11. Now I will show you what it looks like in Proxmox. So if I come back over here to PVE1, and in PVE1 you want to come down here to network, there's one simple change you need to make. You need to select this VMBR0. I'm going to click on edit. And as you can see here, it has that 10 network that has that range in there, but it doesn't have this option here, VLAN aware. So we need to tick that. And then we're going to click OK. Now, before we do that, I am going to create another virtual switch here. As I said earlier, I want to be able to create isolated workloads. So while we're here, let's do that. So click on create. We're going to create a Linux bridge. I'm just going to give this a completely separate, different range, 10.100.0.0/24. And for the comment, I'm just going to type in private, and we're just going to leave that like that. Just click on create. Perfect. So we have our private Linux bridge and we have this VLAN aware. So all we have to do is come up here and click on apply configuration, hit yes, and that is done. Okay, so let's come back over here to PVE2. So we're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to come into VMBR0, we're going to hit edit, we're going to tick VLAN aware, click OK. Then we are going to go to create Linux bridge, again 10.100.0.0. You can use any subnet you want here, by the way. That's just one I've chosen that I know I'm not going to use on my network. So give it the name private, click create. Then all you have to do is click apply config, hit yes, and that is it, done. Now let's just give that a test. So in the last video, we created this Ubuntu container. Let's go in there, we're going to make a change and let's put it in VLAN 12 and just see if it gets a 12 IP. So click into the VM itself. You want to go into network, and I'm just going to edit this. Down here under VLAN tag, I'm just going to type in 12, hit OK, and we're going to hit start. And let's just go to the console and let's see what happens. It should receive an IP address in the 12 network, I hope. Let's type in IPA, as you can see, there you go, 10.96.12.97. That is perfect. So that means I can just build workloads and assign them into different VLANs, which is amazing. So there you go, that is all of the updates done. We've got rid of all of those error messages. We have configured the ZFS storage. We've configured local data drives on each of the nodes. We have also configured the VLANs and a private network switch, which is huge. We can now start deploying workloads on this. In the next episode, we're going to continue on this process. We'll get our backups created, we'll get replications. I want to build some things around container templates and VM templates just to make my life much easier down the line. So if you want to see that stuff, make sure you subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.